The old mansion stood cloaked in shadows, its windows glaring like hollow eyes as midnight pressed against its decaying walls. Ethan Blackwood said, "This place feels like it remembers every secret ever buried." He was unsettled, his breath heavy, as the storm outside rattled the loose shutters, and the dim hall clock ticked louder than it should. A sudden crackle from his phone shattered the silence, a voicemail replaying by itself, static swallowing the words until a trembling voice whispered, "They know where you are." Ethan froze, his pulse quickened, and he muttered, "That voice. It can't be real." His flashlight flickered as he stepped deeper, every floorboard groaning as if warning him back. Then came a scream, high, piercing and sharp, ripping through the darkness. Ethan shouted, "Who's there?" His words drowned in silence. He searched frantically, but there was nothing, only a single object glinting faintly on the ground, dust clinging to its curves. The hourglass was impossibly old, etched with symbols that no language could claim. Ethan whispered, "What are you?" As his fingers hovered near, the air grew colder, the ticking clock stuttered, and the room seemed to breathe. Shadows lengthened unnaturally, circling him like predators. His chest tightened, and the hourglass pulsed faintly, as though alive. He realized he was no longer alone. The mansion was awake, and time itself had begun to stir against him. Ethan Blackwood's mind raced as silence crushed the scream's echo. His flashlight beam cut across ruined wallpaper, stopping on old portraits with eyes that seemed to follow. He said, "This house is wrong, it's breathing." A chill coiled around him. He remembered stories whispered in town, tales of vanished wanderers, and voices caught in loops of endless nights. The floor creaked under his weight, as though the house recognized him. Suddenly the clock at the hallway's end struck once, though its hands had not moved. His breath clouded as cold rushed in. Ethan muttered, "Time doesn't work here." The air pressed heavy, carrying a faint sound of sand falling. He followed it, each step slower, each shadow stretching longer. The mansion seemed alive, watching, waiting for him to reach the room ahead. The whispers grew clearer, ancient words he could not understand, but his bones felt the weight of their meaning. Fear and curiosity wrestled within him. The storm outside thundered, but within these walls, silence throbbed. The sand-like sound grew louder, pulling him closer. He realized the hourglass was no trinket, but the mansion's heart. Ethan Blackwood stepped into the grand parlor, where dust-coated furniture sat like ghosts frozen in time. His voice cracked as he said, "I shouldn't be here." The chandelier above swayed, though no wind stirred. Cobwebs shivered as if touched by invisible hands. The sand sound pulsed louder, and in the corner of the parlor lay faint glowing tracks across the wooden floor. Ethan whispered, "Someone else was here." His stomach tightened as the tracks curved toward the fireplace, where ash shifted without fire. He knelt and brushed the floor. Warmth radiated from the glowing lines, unnatural and defiant of decay. The storm roared louder outside, but the sound inside muffled to silence. Then, a faint reflection glimmered in the cracked mirror above the mantel. Not his reflection, but a shadowed figure standing behind him. He spun quickly, flashlight beam cutting, but the parlor was empty. His breath rasped as fear coiled deeper. The air whispered again, words jagged and broken, like a language of sand pouring endlessly. Ethan Blackwood steadied himself, forcing calm. He said, "It's just shadows." Yet the words fell hollow. He rose, eyes drawn to the hourglass that now stood on the mantel, though he had left it in the hallway. His chest tightened. "That's impossible," he whispered. The glass shimmered faintly, sand within shifting, though the hourglass had not been touched. Each grain fell with unnatural slowness, as though mocking the very flow of time. The walls groaned, timber bones bending in protest, dust spilling from the ceiling like ashes. Ethan stepped closer, compelled by the glow, his hand trembling. He recalled his father's warnings about objects cursed with memory, relics older than faith itself. The house seemed to lean with him, floorboards creaking louder under each step. His reflection in the cracked mirror warped, delayed, moving moments after he did. The air grew bitterly cold. He muttered, "It's watching me." The sand fell heavier, echoing through the room as if time itself had turned against him. The hourglass pulsed brighter, its symbols writhing as though alive. Ethan Blackwood whispered, "What do you want from me?" The air shifted, carrying a low hum, a resonance vibrating through his bones. The chandelier above swayed violently, though no wind touched it. A draft slammed the door shut behind him, trapping him. His flashlight flickered, beam fighting against the deepening dark. He turned as whispers surged louder, echoing like countless voices pressed into one. They called his name. Ethan shouted, "Stop!" His voice cracked, fear breaking through. The hourglass responded with a shiver, sand falling faster now, grains glowing like embers. Time itself faltered. The clock hands spun wildly, though no sound rang out. Shadows twisted on the walls, forming shapes of figures that seemed human yet wrong, distorted echoes. Ethan pressed back against the wall, eyes wide, heart pounding. He realized he was caught in something ancient, a cycle that had already begun long before his arrival. The mansion's hunger had found him. The mansion seemed to breathe as Ethan Blackwood whispered, "I shouldn't touch it again, but it keeps calling me." The faint glow of the hourglass pulsed from the mantel, and every flicker of its light made the walls shudder. The silence was shattered when the portraits along the hallway shifted, their painted eyes looking toward him. Ethan Blackwood said, "You're watching, aren't you?" A clock in the distance ticked irregularly, like a heartbeat gone wrong. He clutched his chest, shaken, when the air shimmered as though the house itself warped. A figure emerged from the shadows, calm and unreadable, cloaked in gray. Lydia Crane said softly, "You shouldn't have woken it." Ethan Blackwood's voice broke as he asked, "Who are you? How do you know my name?" Lydia Crane only smiled faintly, her presence more unsettling than the silence before. Her eyes glinted as if reflecting centuries of secrets. The storm outside raged louder, but within the mansion, everything narrowed to the hourglass, Ethan Blackwood's trembling breath, and Lydia Crane's cryptic warning. Time itself bent, leaving him unsure if minutes or hours had already passed. Ethan Blackwood tried to steady his breath as Lydia Crane circled him slowly, her eyes fixed on the glowing hourglass. She said, "Every grain is a choice already made, and every choice brings you closer to the same end." Ethan Blackwood said firmly, "I don't believe in fate." Lydia Crane's faint laugh echoed as though layered, her voice carrying more than one tone. She continued, "You already believed when you stepped inside." Ethan Blackwood's knuckles whitened around the flashlight as the storm's thunder rattled the windows. He turned toward the parlor's door, but the frame had warped into twisted wood, unyielding. The house pulsed with energy, shadows crawling higher along the walls. He demanded, "Why are you here?" Lydia Crane whispered, "To remind you that the mansion remembers, even when you wish to forget." His throat tightened as her words sank deeper, leaving him unsure whether she was a lie or something far darker. The sound of sand falling filled the parlor, louder now, echoing from unseen corners. Ethan Blackwood pressed his palms against his ears, but it seeped through his bones. He said, "Make it stop." Lydia Crane shook her head. She replied, "It doesn't stop, Ethan Blackwood, it only resets." The word twisted him inside, the thought of reliving the same torment unbearable. The clock above the fireplace spun backward, its hands jerking violently. Ethan Blackwood's flashlight sputtered out, plunging him into half-darkness. He shouted, "You know how to end this." Lydia Crane's eyes reflected the hourglass glow as she whispered, "The end is only the beginning." He stumbled backward, knocking over a chair that dissolved into dust the moment it touched the floor. His panic rose as the room bent strangely, the ceiling lowering, the walls breathing in and out. He realized the house itself was not haunted, it was alive, and it was hungry. The floor split open with a crack as Ethan Blackwood stumbled back. From the shadows beneath, faint glowing tracks crawled outward, marking symbols into the dust. He said, It's carving something. Lydia Crane raised her hand slowly, as if commanding the light. She whispered, "The house remembers each step, each scream, each silence. You're only repeating what has already been written." Ethan Blackwood's heart hammered as he protested, "No, I won't accept that." The glowing tracks snaked around his boots, wrapping like chains before fading into nothing. He trembled, his body shaking. Lydia Crane's expression softened for the first time, but it was not comforting, it was pity. She said, "Some loops are cages, Ethan Blackwood. Yours may never open." His breath caught as the hourglass pulsed once more, brighter than before, its glow staining every shadow with crimson. The mansion's air grew crushingly heavy, forcing Ethan Blackwood to his knees. He gasped, "I won't let it take me." The hourglass thundered with impossible sound, each grain falling like an avalanche in his ears. Lydia Crane stepped forward, her silhouette tall against the storm-flashed window. She said, "It has already taken you. The loop began the moment you entered." Ethan Blackwood's hands clawed at the floor, splinters piercing his skin. He shouted, "Tell me how to break it." Lydia Crane bent down, her face inches from his, her voice a whisper that sliced like glass. She replied, "To break it is to embrace it. There is no freedom without surrender." He recoiled, unable to comprehend, when the shadows of unseen figures spread across the walls once more. The air screamed with whispers, names unrecognizable but endless. Ethan Blackwood realized with terror that he was not the first, and he would not be the last. The storm clawed at the mansion as Ethan Blackwood staggered down the corridor, his heartbeat pounding in rhythm with the creaking walls. He muttered, "I have to find a way out before it resets again." The air thickened, shadows tightening around him like ropes. Suddenly, a door slammed open ahead, revealing Daniel Mercer, standing rigid, pale with terror. Daniel Mercer gasped, "You shouldn't have come. None of us escape." Ethan Blackwood snapped, "What are you talking about? Who else is here?" Daniel Mercer's eyes darted, his hands trembling as he whispered, "The house keeps us, Ethan Blackwood," over and over again. Before Ethan Blackwood could respond, the hourglass pulsed from inside the parlor, its glow seeping through cracks in the doorframe. Both men froze, the sound of falling sand booming louder than thunder. Daniel Mercer gripped Ethan Blackwood's arm and said, "You'll see soon. We all do." His face, drenched in sweat, seemed to age before Ethan Blackwood's eyes as though time itself was draining him. Daniel Mercer stumbled backward as if unseen chains pulled him. He cried, "You don't understand, Ethan Blackwood. The hourglass doesn't give time, it steals it." Ethan Blackwood shouted, "Then help me break it." Daniel Mercer's body shook violently as his shadow twisted unnaturally along the wall, splitting into two. The echo of a scream rattled the corridor, though his lips never moved. Ethan Blackwood raised his flashlight, but its beam bent sideways, refusing to land on Daniel Mercer's face. Daniel Mercer whispered, "I've died here before. And so will you." His body flickered, fading in and out, as though reality no longer claimed him fully. Ethan Blackwood lunged forward, trying to steady him, but the air surged like a wave, throwing them apart. Ethan Blackwood hit the floor hard, gasping, as Daniel Mercer's form dissolved into smoke, leaving behind the echo of his final word, "Again." Ethan Blackwood whispered, "No, this can't be happening." The walls moaned, and the house shifted once more. Ethan Blackwood dragged himself to his feet, his mind racing with Daniel Mercer's words. He said, "If he was trapped, how many more are here?" His question was answered by the sound of footsteps behind him, deliberate and heavy. Turning, he found Richard Hale, standing in the shadows near the stairwell. Richard Hale said, "You should leave the hourglass where it belongs." Ethan Blackwood snapped, "Who are you?" Richard Hale stepped forward, his badge glinting faintly in the dim light, his face worn with guilt. Richard Hale said, "I was supposed to protect them. Instead, I hid the truth." Ethan Blackwood's jaw clenched as he asked, "You knew about this?" Richard Hale's eyes darkened. "I tried to bury it, but the house doesn't forgive." The stairwell groaned as if agreeing, dust drifting down. Ethan Blackwood stepped closer, voice low. If you hit it, then you know how to end it. Richard Hale shook his head, his silence heavier than any words. Richard Hale leaned against the banister, his breath ragged. He said, I told them to seal it away, but greed never listens. Ethan Blackwood demanded, seal what? Richard Hale's lips tightened before answering. The hourglass belonged to the manor's first owner, Jonathan Crane. He bartered with time itself. Ethan Blackwood's skin crawled. Lydia Crane, he muttered, realization dawning. Richard Hale nodded. Bloodline tied to its curse. No one escapes once they touch it. The walls groaned, a chorus of whispers rising from unseen corners. Ethan Blackwood stepped back, his voice trembling. Then I'm already marked. Richard Hale's hand shook as he pulled a revolver from his coat. He said, some things can't be undone, only stop. He raised it, pointing not at Ethan Blackwood, but at the glowing parlor door. Ethan Blackwood shouted, you'll destroy us all. Richard Hale's finger trembled, shadows bending unnaturally around the weapon. Before Richard Hale could fire, the door creaked open by itself, spilling crimson light into the corridor. Ethan Blackwood covered his face, the glow searing his eyes. From the doorway emerged Lydia Crane, her cloak billowing though no wind blew. Lydia Crane said, you think a bullet can wound time? Richard Hale lowered the revolver slowly, his voice cracking. I tried to protect them. I failed. Lydia Crane's cold gaze pierced him as she replied, you only delayed the inevitable. Ethan Blackwood stepped forward shouting, enough riddles, tell me what it wants. Lydia Crane's lips curled faintly. It wants what it always has. More. The light surged, swallowing the stairwell, pulling at all three of them as though reality itself unraveled. Ethan Blackwood screamed, no. The hourglass pulsed louder, and the mansion itself shook, floors splitting, shadows writhing like serpents. None of them could deny it now. The loop was tightening, and escape was slipping further away. The crimson light dimmed, leaving the corridor drenched in uneasy silence. Ethan Blackwood steadied his breath, whispering, we can't fight shadows forever. Richard Hale's revolver still trembled in his hand, though his shoulders sagged under invisible weight. He said, I've lied too long, buried too many truths. From the stairwell's edge, another figure emerged, Emma Cross, clutching a lantern, her face pale with fear. Emma Cross gasped, you're all cursed. I tried to warn you. Ethan Blackwood turned sharply. Who are you? Emma Cross's voice quivered. A historian. I studied Jonathan Crane's journals. I thought they were legends until I saw the house breathing. Lydia Crane stepped closer, her tone cutting. You should have stayed away, Emma Cross. This house doesn't welcome outsiders. Emma Cross shook her head, her lantern rattling in her grip. I had to know. Curiosity drags us all here. The house groaned louder as if mocking them, dust falling like ash. Ethan Blackwood muttered, then we're in deeper than we thought. Emma Cross's lantern flickered as she stepped further in. She said, the journal said the hourglass was made from sand that never ran out, but it demanded something in return. Ethan Blackwood frowned. Return of what? Emma Cross hesitated before whispering. Lives. It takes hours, years, whole existences. Richard Hale cursed under his breath. I should have burned this place decades ago. Lydia Crane's eyes narrowed. And yet you didn't. Because the mansion owns even your silence. Ethan Blackwood's patience broke. He snapped. No more riddles. Tell me how to break this. Lydia Crane's smile was faint, chilling. Breaking it means giving yourself to it completely. Few dare. The house moaned, the sound swelling like a tide. Emma Cross's lantern dimmed, shadows climbing higher. She said shakily, it's starting again. Ethan Blackwood whispered, then we're running out of time. The ground shuddered, a rumble rolling beneath their feet. Ethan Blackwood steadied himself against the wall, gasping, the house is moving. Richard Hale growled, it doesn't want us together. The floor split, carving a jagged line between them. Emma Cross stumbled, nearly dropping her lantern, while Lydia Crane stood unfazed, her cloak swirling though no wind blew. Ethan Blackwood reached out, shouting, "Stay together!" But the gap widened, glowing crimson as whispers hissed upward. Lydia Crane's voice rose above the chaos. "The hourglass feeds best when we're divided." Richard Hale fired his revolver at the floor, wood splintering, but the gap only grew. Emma Cross screamed, "It's pulling us apart." Ethan Blackwood clenched his jaw, shouting, "Then fight it." Yet the house seemed to laugh, beams overhead snapping as though to remind them resistance was futile. The crimson glow pulsed stronger, matching the sound of falling sand. Emma Cross fell to her knees, gripping the lantern as the fissure widened. She cried, "It wants us broken, not the house." Ethan Blackwood leapt forward, pulling her away from the edge. He said, "You're not alone in this." Richard Hale snarled, "He doesn't know the cost. Emma Cross, tell him." Emma Cross' eyes brimmed with tears. "I read the journals. Jonathan Crane sacrificed his family first. He fed them to the hourglass." Ethan Blackwood's blood chilled. "He killed them." Lydia Crane's voice cut coldly. "He gave them. There's a difference." Ethan Blackwood's stomach turned, rage overtaking fear. He shouted, "This ends now." The hourglass pulsed in the parlor beyond, crimson glow spilling brighter, shadows twisting violently. Emma Cross whispered, "If we fail, it starts again. It never ends." The words buried themselves deep, and Ethan Blackwood felt the weight of inevitability pressing down. The mansion's air grew thick with whispers, hundreds of voices overlapping. Ethan Blackwood pressed forward, shouting, "We're not its prey anymore." Lydia Crane's eyes glowed faintly as she replied, "You're already prey, you just haven't accepted it." Richard Hale aimed his revolver at the hourglass glow, muttering, "I'll end this tonight." Emma Cross' face went pale as she cried, "No, if you destroy it wrong, the loop swallows everything." The shadows swirled violently, figures of faceless people forming in the crimson light. Ethan Blackwood's breath quickened, realization dawning. "These are the ones before us." The figures whispered in unison, voices echoing, "Join us." The hourglass throbbed louder, its glow cracking across the floor like veins of fire. Ethan Blackwood shouted above the roar, "We either end it or it ends us all." His words vanished in the storm as the house itself screamed. The parlor's walls pulsed like veins, crimson light breathing in rhythm with the hourglass. Ethan Blackwood steadied his grip on the flashlight and said, "We need answers, not riddles." Richard Hale wiped sweat from his brow, muttering, "You won't like what you hear." Emma Cross' lantern flickered as she opened a tattered leather journal from her satchel. She whispered, "Jonathan Crane wrote everything, every sacrifice, every curse." Ethan Blackwood leaned closer, tension in his jaw. "Read it." Emma Cross hesitated, her voice trembling. "He bargained with something beyond time. Every drop of sand is a soul condemned." Lydia Crane's eyes glimmered in the glow as she said, "It's not condemnation, it's balance." Ethan Blackwood slammed his fist on the mantel, shouting, "Balance doesn't murder people." Richard Hale stared at the journal, his voice low. "He wasn't the first to feed it. I helped bury the truth. I failed them all." The walls moaned louder as the journal's pages curled and blackened, as though fire licked from unseen hands. The journal's ink bled, symbols crawling across the page as if alive. Emma Cross cried, "It's rewriting itself." Ethan Blackwood leaned down, shouting, "What does it say?" Her lips trembled as she read aloud, "Those who touch the glass become its heirs, marked for endless repetition." Richard Hale cursed, "Then we're already lost." Ethan Blackwood's voice cracked, "No, there has to be another way." Lydia Crane stepped closer, eyes locked on Ethan Blackwood. She said, "Another way exists, but it demands everything." Emma Cross gripped his arm. "Don't listen to her, she's part of this." Lydia Crane's smile deepened, unsettling. "And yet I know more than your books ever will." The walls bent inward, and the portraits hanging overhead twisted their painted faces into screams. The storm outside rattled the windows violently, glass trembling. Ethan Blackwood shouted over the chaos, "Tell me what it wants, Lydia Crane." She whispered back, "It wants you." The portrait screamed silently, mouths stretched, eyes dripping paint like tears. Ethan Blackwood recoiled, flashlight beam jittering across the room. Richard Hale fired his revolver upward, splinters raining, but the paintings only twisted further. Emma Cross clutched the journal to her chest, crying. He wrote that the curse infects bloodlings. Anyone who carries Crane's blood is bound forever. Ethan Blackwood turned sharply toward Lydia Crane. "That's why you're here. You're part of it." Lydia Crane raised her chin, eyes glowing faintly. "I am not bound. I am chosen." Richard Hale growled, "You've killed them all with your silence." Lydia Crane's gaze swept over them coldly. "I preserve them. You mistake survival for cruelty." The hourglass pulsed violently, its glow spilling across the parlor floor, symbols burning into wood. Ethan Blackwood shouted, "Then I'll smash it to pieces." The air shivered, laughter echoing from walls. Lydia Crane said calmly, "You'll only make it stronger." The floor cracked open again, glowing with fiery veins. Emma Cross stumbled backward, nearly dropping the lantern. She cried, "It's feeding now." Ethan Blackwood grabbed her arm, shouting, "Stay with me." Richard Hale aimed his revolver at the hourglass, but shadows snaked up his arm, forcing it aside. He cursed, "It won't let me." Lydia Crane raised both hands as the symbols on her cloak flared. She said, "The house is awakening fully. Nothing stops it now." Ethan Blackwood barked back, "There's always a way." The fissure spread wider, revealing bones beneath the floor, skeletal hands clawing upward. Emma Cross screamed, "Those are the others, the ones who came before us." Shadows surged, wrapping the bones, pulling them back down. Ethan Blackwood's voice broke as he shouted, "Then we're next unless we fight." But the hourglass pulsed again, stronger, the sand falling faster, the sound echoing like thunder in their skulls. The house shook violently, beams cracking overhead. Ethan Blackwood shouted, "We can't hold this place much longer." Emma Cross' lantern shattered on the floor, plunging half the parlor into choking dark. She clutched Ethan Blackwood's sleeve and cried, "The journals say there's a key hidden beneath the mantle." Richard Hale forced himself against the shadows, shouting, "Then get it before we're swallowed whole." Ethan Blackwood lunged toward the mantle, his hand clawing through broken wood. The hourglass pulsed violently, shaking the walls. Lydia Crane stepped forward, her voice steady. "The key doesn't free you, it binds you deeper." Ethan Blackwood found a cold iron object, pulling it free, a small ornate key, etched with the same symbols as the hourglass. He gasped, "This is it." The shadows recoiled at its glow. Emma Cross screamed, "Use it before it resets everything again." The house wailed like a living thing, desperate to stop him. The parlor convulsed as Ethan Blackwood gripped the iron key, its surface glowing cold beneath his hand. He shouted, "It's changing me." Emma Cross clung to him, crying. The journals warned about this moment. Richard Hale strained against the shadows, clutching his arms, his voice breaking. "Then use it before we're lost." Lydia Crane's calm words pierced the chaos. "If he uses it, the house will never release him." Ethan Blackwood raised the key toward the floating hourglass, its crimson glow stabbing into the walls like lightning. Dust swirled, as whispers of countless voices overlapped in his skull. He gasped, "It's pulling everything in." Emma Cross pleaded, "You must choose now. Turn it and reset, or unlock it and surrender." Ethan Blackwood's chest heaved, torn between sacrifice and survival, as the storm rattled every shattered window. The hourglass pulsed in rhythm with Ethan Blackwood's heartbeat. He shouted, "Tell me how to end this." Lydia Crane's eyes glowed faintly as she whispered, "There is no end, only the shape of surrender." Richard Hale roared as shadows dragged his revolver from his grip. "Fight it, damn you!" Emma Cross frantically flipped through the journal, her lantern flickering weakly. "The key makes the next heir. Whoever holds it becomes bound." Ethan Blackwood's eyes widened. That means me. The walls cracked as rivers of glowing sand spilled through the fissures, flowing upward. Emma Cross screamed, "Unlock it, and you'll never escape." Lydia Crane's voice echoed with layered tones. "Or unlock it, and rule time itself." Ethan Blackwood trembled, torn as sand poured like waterfalls around them, blinding his vision. Ethan Blackwood's head pounded as whispers thundered within him, thousands of voices demanding, "Choose." He fell to his knees, clutching the key. Emma Cross cried, "Fight it, don't let the house win." Richard Hale was dragged lower, shadows devouring his arm as he roared, "End it before it takes us all." Lydia Crane advanced, her cloak flaring with pale light. "You can't end what has no beginning, you can only hold it." The hourglass levitated, spinning above them, sand swirling like a storm inside. Ethan Blackwood's hand shook as he raised the key toward it. "If I unlock it, what happens?" Emma Cross tears streaked her cheeks. "Then you carry the curse." Shadows closed in, whispering his name. He gasped, "Someone must pay." Richard Hale tore free from the shadows, blood spilling down his sleeve. He staggered against the wall, gasping, "My time's over. Finish it." Ethan Blackwood shouted, "I can't carry this." Richard Hale shoved him toward the hourglass. "Then do it for all of us." Emma Cross sobbed, clutching the journal. "Don't listen, you'll be trapped forever." Lydia Crane's voice echoed like a hymn. "He has no choice. The hourglass has already chosen him." The relic spun violently in midair, grains rushing upward. Ethan Blackwood raised the key, hand trembling as his veins glowed faintly. Shadows pressed in from every side, whispering, "Choose." The storm shattered glass, wind tearing through the parlor. Ethan Blackwood roared, "I'll never be your prisoner." Yet still, the key hovered inches from the lock. The house shook as Ethan Blackwood screamed, "If this ends with me, then so be it." He slammed the iron key into the hourglass. Light exploded, shadows shrieking as they dissolved. Emma Cross screamed, "No!" Richard Hale collapsed, his strength failing. Lydia Crane's cloak spread like wings as she whispered, "The heir has chosen." Ethan Blackwood fell to his knees as the relic fused to his chest, symbols searing into his skin. He gasped, "It's inside me now." Emma Cross crawled toward him, clutching his hand. "Fight it." His eyes glowed faint crimson as visions of countless victims poured through his mind. The storm outside vanished, leaving a dead silence. Ethan Blackwood whispered, "Time belongs to me now, but so does its hunger." Dust hung frozen as Ethan Blackwood knelt, clutching the fused hourglass. His body shook as he gasped, "It's rewriting me." Emma Cross crawled to him, crying, "Fight it, Ethan Blackwood." Richard Hale groaned faintly, whispering, "He can't. None of us could." Lydia Crane stepped forward, her eyes locked on him. "You are chosen. Accept it, and your pain ends." Ethan Blackwood screamed, "I won't carry this curse." But the hourglass pulsed, sand spinning upward. Shadows circled, their whispers shaking the walls. Emma Cross covered her ears, sobbing, "It won't let go." Ethan Blackwood's eyes glowed crimson as he roared, "Then I'll burn with it." The hourglass pulsed harder, binding to Ethan Blackwood's chest. He screamed, "It's inside me." Emma Cross sobbed, "Let it go before it seals you." Richard Hale staggered upright, his voice rough. "He can't. It's too late." Lydia Crane whispered, "At last the heir accepts his throne." Ethan Blackwood slammed the relic against the floor, but it flared brighter, symbols spreading across his skin. He gasped, "It's making me its vessel." Emma Cross shouted, "Fight it." Shadows surged, lifting Ethan Blackwood into the air. Lydia Crane's voice deepened, layered. "You are not prison. You are time itself." Ethan Blackwood convulsed as voices screamed in his skull. He shouted, "I feel every death." Emma Cross begged, "Then free them." Richard Hale staggered forward, gasping, "Do it now." Lydia Crane raised her arms, cloak glowing, commanding. Accept it, Ethan Blackwood. The hourglass levitated, spinning violently, grains swirling into a storm. Furniture split, portraits shattered. Ethan Blackwood's eyes glowed gold crimson as he roared, "I'll never be your slave." Shadows screamed as a vortex erupted, sucking the room inward. Emma Cross cried, "Free them before it's too late." The vortex roared as Ethan Blackwood shouted, "If it wants me, it must take everything." He thrust the key deeper into the relic. A blinding light exploded, hurling Emma Cross and Richard Hale aside. "Ah!" Lydia Crane screamed, her cloak dissolving into ash. Ethan Blackwood's skin burned with glowing symbols as he cried, "I end it now." The vortex imploded, collapsing into silence. Emma Cross crawled up, coughing, whispering, "What did you do?" Ethan Blackwood gasped, "I ended the cycle, but at a cost." His body trembled, drained by the weight of time. The mansion fell silent, walls motionless. Ethan Blackwood collapsed, the fused hourglass glowing faintly in his chest. Emma Cross clutched his hand, sobbing, "You saved us but doomed yourself." Richard Hale leaned broken against the wall, whispering, "He didn't end it, he became it." Ethan Blackwood's hollow eyes lifted, his voice distant. "The loop is broken for you, but I am bound forever." Lydia Crane's ashes drifted, her last whisper fading, "The heir is chosen." Emma Cross wept, "Don't leave us." Ethan Blackwood smiled faintly, whispering, "I'll never leave. Time will never let me go." The sound of falling sand echoed endlessly.